Okay, is it working now? Audio, please. Oh, come on. Okay, is it working now? That's a yes, alright. Audio, please. Hello, this is Chiak. This should hopefully be the last of the main story for Omen Exitio Plague. So let's get jumping quickly right away. I don't know how much is left, but we are on Mr. Huntington's Rebirth. Just a refresher for myself, I have 68 experience points. I have an incendiary device in his top hat, and I think that's it. And then yeah, something about fireproofing himself. Either way, hopefully, you know, his friend, I don't get his friend killed. The moment has arrived and you are unexpectedly calm. You are ready to do what needs to be done. You call a coach and prepare to go to the meeting point. You glimpse small snatches of London scenes through the carriage window as you pass. A part of you says goodbye, in case you should never see it again. Reginald is sitting in front of you, nervous and on edge. He keeps changing position as if he cannot quite find a comfortable position. You intuit that he wishes to speak to you, but that he is afraid of interrupting your thoughts. At one point, you look at him and smile. He smiles back, but it is forced. Then he looks for a better place to sit. For the first time in many months, you feel completely calm. You know now that you are not crazy and no longer feel the terrible weight of persecution, whether real or imagined. Instead, you have a clear purpose and a chance to put an end to the nefarious plans of an insidious monster. As per the instructions, you get out of the carriage a small distance from the actual meeting place. You thank and pay the driver. For a moment, you are suspicious. The driver's complexion is very dark, but you cannot be certain since it is getting dark. You try to get a better look at him. As he whips the horse into motion, he smiles and you suddenly see his brilliant white teeth in contrast to his dark skin. Stay in these parts. I will be back shortly. If things get... If you do not see me again before dawn, things have probably gone badly. Reginald looks at you in silence. You can tell he would normally say something funny, but right now he doesn't have the heart. You embrace him warmly and set off towards the port, and towards the specified dock. Reginald follows you with his eyes for several minutes. You pull the top hat securely down onto your head. The weight of the bomb is not so much, perhaps only a pound and a few ounces, so you can wear the hat with sufficient ease. Hidden from clothes, your skin feels slimy with the fireproof ointment you so carefully prepared. You have reserved an extra portion of it in your pocket for your face. You can't be sure whether it is enough to protect you, but deep down you realize that it matters little. The man welcomes you. You give him the password and he tells you to follow him. The warehouse stinks and its gloomy interior is filled with damp, tangled ropes and boxes. You follow the man along the dark passageway, and then he moves aside a large trunk and lifts a trap door to reveal a thin ladder going down. A few yards underground, you find yourself in a large chamber that looks like a temple, but not of any ancient civilization that you know of. Doric columns, an altar, and the sound of water dripping and echoing complete the surreal scene. You feel as if you have entered a parallel world. Around you there are men and women wearing the by now familiar masks and kilts. On the altar there is a mask and a kilt, presumably yours. 3 large men stand before the altar. You decide they must be the leaders. One of them gestures for you to come closer. As you walk, you feel hands upon you, gently stripping you of your blazer, while the men on the altar are chanting strange litanies. but you are hardly listening to them. It's time for you to act. Why? I'm confused right now. What's the point of stalling? As you walk, you feel hands upon you, blah, blah, blah. But you are hardly listening. Are we waiting for? I mean, I feel like I have no the reason why I'm like, I don't have that much information. Hold on. So let's just get an idea of the room again. Find yourself in a large chamber. Dark columns, an altar, and the sound of dripping water and echo complete the surreal scene. Okay. Around you there are men and women wearing the by now familiar mask and kilt. On the altar there is a mask, presumably yours. Three large men stand before the altar. Okay, so if we're going to throw the IED now, we're getting what we presume is leaders. As you walk, you feel hands upon you, stripping you of your blazer, while the men on the altar are chanting strange litanies, but you're hardly listening to them. It's time for you to act. See, this confuses me because I don't understand what is there to be buying time for. Rather than just throwing the top hat. I'm not gonna fight because, let's be frank, my fighting skills, I mean, it doesn't show up, but... Because I'm tempted to see this one, just to see where the hell it goes, but if we get the thing taken away from us... Because they are taking our clothes right now. Are we trying to get more people? I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too much in this. Is there a reason to stall? Like, that's the only thing I want to figure out. Is there a reason to stall? Let them take your clothes to buy time. Buy time for what? For more people to come to the altar, maybe? Oh, wait, but then... Because what happens if they question... We have, like, the fire-resistant stuff on us, so what happens if they question that? Okay, I guess we just attack. You have no choice. You must act. Taking off your hat, you throw it with force towards the altar. The weight of the bomb facilitates the throw. It hits the large block of stone directly, and according to plan, the eternal glass components break, mixing the flammable chemicals. The explosion is not particularly big, but is sufficient to spray the flaming liquid produced by the chemical reaction in all directions, creating a dangerous fire in a matter of seconds. 2 of the 3 men at the altar are killed in the blast. The third is lying on the ground screaming and trying to extinguish the flames that are searing his skin. Many other members of the cult are on fire, and all around there is absolute chaos. You spread the remaining ointment on your face and run towards the exit. The heat of the flame is unbearable, and the clothes are starting to catch fire. Oh, that's why. 2 of the cultists are upon you, hindering your escape. Okay, well, since I have the points for observation, let's make doubly sure. Try to get to the exit. You manage to free yourself and find a route through the surrounding chaos. You reach the ladder and climb. Back in the warehouse, you close the trapdoor and pull the trunk back over it, weighing it down with other boxes and random objects to slow down anyone who might be following you. You are able to eliminate the leaders of the cult. You may not have stopped it completely, but you are quite sure that any survivors will need time to regroup and decide how to continue their plans. In the meantime, perhaps you can prepare so as to make sure that when the cult comes back, there are those who are ready to face them. Oh, this is the last chapter? Oh, wait, Aftermath. I was expecting something a bit longer, but... Hold on. 4 points. I have 56 experience points? Already? How? Okay, whatever. Okay. Just want to get rid of all the shininess. Aftermath. Big Ben stands black against the night, and just beyond it, there is the outline of Parliament, piercing the sky with its spires. London is never silent, but at night, the usually cacophonous voice of the city is muted, and your footsteps echo and reverberate through its alleyways and mews. You are imagining disturbing shadows reaching down from the firmament, as if some dark entity were trying to strangle your city. Heinous fingers searching for a throat. Reginald is at the corner where he had promised to wait for you. He seems agitated and anxious, nervously pulling at his overcoat sleeves. The moment he sees you arrive, he beams with relief, rather different to his usual jovial smiles, and as soon as he can, he embraces you affectionately. Chiak, I was beginning to fear the worst. Walking with Reginald, he tells you excitingly about his various ideas to help you disappear into thin air. He has prepared for you a bag with various items that will no doubt be useful for you, including money, food, clothes, and a train ticket. Reginald stops a hansom cab and practically pushes you on board. Coachman, London, Victoria. Reginald turns to you and gestures for you to get inside. Now his smile is different, forced, trying to hide his sadness. Goodbye, Chiak. Still 1 foot on the running board, you turn to look back at your generous friend. Reginald has given you so much, even put himself at risk for you, and always with his perennial and magnanimous smile. You wish that you could find the words to express the depth of your gratitude, but even if you could, the knot in your throat would not let you say them. Reginald waves goodbye. The coach whips his horse into motion. Thank you. They are the only words you can say, but you would like to add so many more. Now he flashes you a real smile and yells back, You can buy me a full-course dinner next time we meet. You laugh, but the knot in your throat grows even tighter as the image of your friend recedes into the distance. You have the hansom cab drop you off directly at London Victoria. You pay the coachman and enter the large station, the perfect place to disappear without a trace. You look for an inconspicuous place to wait for your train, somewhere you have less chance of being seen. Finally, the first morning train makes its appearance at Victoria Station. You show your ticket to the conductor, who tells you your carriage and seat number. You have no trouble finding it and take your seat a few minutes before departure. As the train leaves the platform and begins to rock rhythmically, you feel every muscle in your body slowly relaxing, finally giving way to a sense of relieved calm. All of a sudden, you realize that you didn't even look at the destination on your ticket, and you reach into your pocket. Apparently, you are on your way to Liverpool. Waves of serenity. I'm actually gonna take a drink of water. The train is hurtling through the beautiful English countryside. It has been quite some time since you left behind the smoky, black streets of the capital for the luscious green fields and pleasant sloping hills all around it. The train has already stopped a number of times, and at every passing station, and despite your outward attempts at nonchalance, you have been throwing glances at the faces of the people boarding for anything which could be construed as suspicious. And each time it happens, you curse yourself and this involuntary and increasing paranoia. Several hours go by before the train reaches the last stop, but then finally you hear the whistle announcing the final stop, Liverpool Central Station. You get off the train and hasten to leave the station, still with the horrible feeling of being constantly observed. Leaving the station and walking the streets of the city, you soon detect the acrid smell of the mercery. Heading in its direction, you pass vast throngs of people of different ethnicities coming and going. Liverpool only officially became a city 20 years previously, and thanks to its busy port, it has been expanding constantly ever since. Reginald talked to you about an acquaintance of his, a certain Francis J. Elian, captain of a cargo ship. He apparently provides your friend, Reginald, with new and exotic foods from around the world, returning to England about every 6 months or so. So you're heading for the port to try to find this captain who, according to your friend, is currently preparing to set sail. The port is huge and, like the one in London, filled with workers, sailors, and crowds of all kinds. Looking down towards the docks, you can see so many masts that looks like a forest. Scanning the chaos, you make out what looks like a merchant. He's barking orders left and right, and something about his bearing reminds you of Captain Smith. You go up to him to speak. "What do you want, boy? Don't waste my time, I'm busy." "Are you Francis J. Elian?" "He wants to know." Okay. Sorry, I forgot to read the dialogue. "Well, how about that? I'm getting a crew back together right now for my next voyage. Get ready, we're leaving today." Okay, just, again, getting rid of the shininess. You're sailing west with the merchant ship Serenity under Captain Francis J. Elian. The first leg of the voyage will take you to New Bedford in North America. As you were able to intuit from the moments that you met him, Elian knows that you are hiding something, but also that, as long as you do your job well, without making a fuss, he will not pry into your affairs. You have been at sea for some days already, and once again, you're surrounded by a vast, unchanging expanse of blue. You have been assigned a small cabin and medical kit. So far your job has been fairly easy, limited to treating and bandaging small wounds and dealing with minor stomach complaints or hangovers. There are not many opportunities for conversation, but there is a small library assembled by your predecessors on board, and so you spend a great deal of the time reading. As you fall into the routine, your days at sea become identical. You spend the day busy with your tasks and usually fall asleep the moment you get to your bunk. Over the last few days, however, you have had moments of utter exhaustion, and on these occasions you have noticed some disturbing effects on your vision. You have seen or imagined strange shadows on the edge of your visual field. You cannot put it down to mere fatigue or to the effects of the strong sun bearing down on you when you are on deck. There is something else. In your mind, you can connect it to the paranoia that you were experiencing before your departure and that your onboard workload had helped you forget. You're having nightmares again, though fortunately for now, you forget what they were about the moment you wake up. But they give you a sense of unease, which continues the whole day. What little you can remember consists of dark and weird shapes rising up, like sea monsters from the black abyss. You try to conceal your gloomy animus from the crew and to concentrate only on your daily tasks, but another terrible thought lies at the back of your mind. What if these latest symptoms, the dark feelings and strange hallucinations, are not just a result of your paranoia in Delft and London, but a sign that you really did catch the disease in Zanzibar? It's night, and despite your exhaustion, you cannot sleep. You decide, therefore, to go up on deck to feel the freshness of the evening on your face. Oh my god, okay. That, you saw the image, it's like, this is not good. I'm sorry, when did I meet this guy? Experienced sailor of the Serenity, he knows several stories and maritime legends with which he loves to terrorize his companions. You suspect a history as a pirate. Ship's doctor, okay. Do I get to do some doctoring soon? There you find some men gathered in a circle, passing around a bottle of rum and listening to stories. Okay, maybe in the circle. We just met him. Adar Medina, the wiry Argentinian, is holding court, amusing himself by scaring the younger members of the crew with tall tales of unthinkable, abominable creatures hidden in the depths of the South Seas. When the sea is shaken by tropical storms, when you are lost in an unnatural fog, well, that's when you start to worry. Maybe you think you know your ship. You think you know how to deal with storms or whatever else the ocean can throw at you. But in truth, that's when you will find out that you know nothing about the thing which lives under the water, or how great are their appetites. I was serving on the brig. It must have been 7 years ago now, and I saw one myself. There was an awful storm, and all of a sudden, I saw a giant tentacle rising up above the main mast, and then a giant and fearful shape emerging from the water behind it. For a few moments, we were completely in its shadow. Then, luckily, we were swept away from that terrifying thing by the fury of the storm. There's a murmuring amongst the men, and someone tries to make light of the story, a sure sign that the story really did frighten them. When the storm finally calmed, we saw damage on the sides of the ship that no wave could have caused, as if something enormous had us tightly in its clutches before ripping chunks from the hull. And afterwards, there were 5 men missing. The captain wrote in his log that they had fallen into the sea, but when we found body parts in the rigging, an arm, part of a torso, as if something had chewed them to pieces. Now, there is silence in the starless night. Someone nearby takes a long slug of rum. Hi, Regulator. Okay. Sorry, what was that? Oh, Storyteller. I have 124 experience points. Man, I thought I was gonna be finishing off with the cult thing, but let's just give credence for the funsies. There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy, says Hamlet. But perhaps Shakespeare had not known the ocean, or he would have said more. The other crew members look at you as if you were a strange creature. You laugh it off, blaming it on too much dodgy rum. Your reference to rum seems to convince the other sailors who decide to drink more themselves. You all decide that, of course, it was just the rum that made you believe Medina's ridiculous tale, and there's a laughter all around. You stay on deck, enveloped by the darkness of the night. Medina's story disturbed you more than you would care to admit. Around you there is only the sound of the waves, the wind in the sails, and the faint creaking of the lantern you are carrying. You walk carefully, checking each step as you go. There is a strong wind swirling around the mast and flapping the sails. A strong gust almost puts you off balance. Something about it seems more than just wind, more presence. You detect a shadow moving at your side. Then you feel a sensation like a scratch on your leg as another shadow whips past you. But when you turn around and hold up your lamp, there is nothing there. You walk back towards your cabin. Out of the corner of your eye, you catch the quick movement of a shadow, then another. Suddenly you find yourself surrounded. Dozens of figures closing in on you. They look like shadows, but at the same time, they seem to have a certain density. They have a vaguely human form, but the proportions appear deformed. With unnaturally lengthened limbs, they appear to have claws instead of fingertips. You see them coming up from the sides of the ship, over the railings, down from the mast, and along the bridge. They are getting closer and closer from every direction. You hear a low, ominous snarl. Okay. You went to hell with it? Add more for agility. Is this gonna work for me this time? Success for once! For once! You race headlong towards the door, doing your best to ignore the shadows. The lantern falls to the deck and breaks, shooting flames in all directions. When you reach the far end of the bridge, you stop and you look around. The shadows have gone. It is as if even they had never been there at all. The wind is blowing and the ship rolls gently as on any normal evening, except the rising flames. You're cold and alone on deck when suddenly your vision fades into blackness and you lose consciousness. Hey, I thought you could hold your rum. Medina's voice penetrates your skull and into your mind. You slowly open your eyes and look around. There's a group of sailors, including Captain Medina and Elian. And Elian, the captain. Give him space. Can you stand up? You nod and stand up. You brush it off as a momentary feeling of faintness. Then suddenly you remember the flames. Don't worry, we put them out. Get to your cabin. Let's see if a night's sleep will sort you out. You thank the captain and say goodnight to the sailors who help you back to your bunk. Lying in your hammock, you think back to the shadows on deck and wonder with a shiver if something there had really been anything there, or if it were all just a dreadful hallucination. That sentence was a bit awkward for me. Okay. 40. Oh my god, speechcraft is actually the lowest thing I've got so far. The Serenity has docked in New Bedford, its first port of call. It will only be a short break. You will have to depart again only a few hours later. Elian calls you into his cabin. You have no idea why you have been called, but it does not take long to find out. The captain wishes to ask a favor of you. I need the substance indicated on this note. Here at the port, there is a man who can procure it, but I need someone to verify its authenticity. And since you're a doctor, I think you should be able to tell if it is real or not. This is the money you will need. Elian gives you some banknotes. You have disembarked and now you are walking through the harbor. You are now far away from London, Zanzibar, and the cult. The madness of your old life is beginning to seem like a hazy dream. Despite the hustle and bustle of this small town harbor, you're beginning to relax. The cold air is nippy but fresh. You're even thinking of abandoning the merchant ship and settling here a while. Okay, let's go. Despite your plan to abandon the ship, you decide first to go and find what Captain Elian asked you to get. You read the note. It is an opium derivative, a strong painkiller. Now you understand the captain's residence in speaking of it. No doubt he suffers from chronic pain and needs this substance for relief. You follow the directions on the note and find yourself in the shop in the arbor that sells just about everything. You approach the owner and make your request. I know this substance. The man looks at you suspiciously until you explain that you're buying it on behalf of the captain of the Serenity. The man nods and asks you to follow him to the back of the shop. When you get there, it is dark and dusty. The shop owner wants to see the money first. I don't have enough for speechcraft, right? Yeah, okay. Convince him to show you the product first. Failure. Figured. I had a feeling. I don't think so. Show me what I'm paying for. The stuff isn't just for anyone. I want to know if I have a real customer first. You show the man the money. He nods and opens the cloth to show you the grain inside. You try to get a better look at the dried plant material inside the sack. You even take a small pinch, rubbing it between your fingers and smelling it carefully. The shopkeeper is trying to hide his obvious frustration. When you're satisfied with the veracity and quality of the product, you wrap it up again, pay the shopkeeper, and head off back to your ship. You must return and report to the captain. You have, however, been at sea for quite some time and are considering the idea of taking the load off your feet and having a quick drink. It's just, I don't want this. I feel like we got some stuff on, like, just get it offhand it quickly right away, please. Let's go back to the ship. You're walking through the streets of New Bedford, looking at the buildings and imagining living here. You're wondering which would be the nicest area to live. The rattle of coins brings you suddenly back from your thoughts. Sitting on the street corner, a dark-skinned beggar shakes a metal tin at you. Looks like a nice place, but it's not right for you. You suspect that he's speaking to you, but his words make no sense. Are you speaking to me? What do you mean? You're traveling on a ship. I see people like you all the time, and I can tell you that your journey is not over yet. You have to keep going. The man's words leave you perplexed, but you put a coin into his tin and walk off back towards the harbor. You put little faith in such superstitious nonsense, but the beggar's words resonated with you profoundly. You walk up the Serenity's gangway. As soon as you are on deck, you run into Captain Ilian, who looks at you anxiously. Well? With a smile, you take out the packets that Captain Ilian wanted. Good work, Huntington. The captain gives you a broad smile, pats you on the back, and takes the product. Shouting orders, he walks off back to his cabin. Prepare to set sail. Okay. I have enough for speechcraft, but... I mean, hold on, what is the other? I'm just 60, right? Yeah. Oh my god, it just gets, please, all the shininess, I need to get rid of it. Mist. New Bedford is now just a thin line on the horizon. You set sail several hours ago, on course for Central America. The captain has modified the course a little, to try and bypass a strange fog which was straight in front of you. Though a little crude, your traveling companions are not half as bad as you thought at first, and the memories of the past year almost seem to belong to someone else. Your decision to continue traveling was, no doubt, the right one. You come across Medina on deck. He's walking strangely and his clothes are covered in blood. His wounds look fresh. You persuade him to come with you to the sick bay. With the right equipment, it takes little time to clean and treat his wounds properly. The wounds are not very serious, but without the right treatment, he would have risked a nasty infection. Medina feigns indifference, but from the way he looks at the medical instruments, you can tell he's a little afraid of doctors. You're leaving the poop deck and walking towards the bow when you see a steamship in the distance. It appears strangely motionless, as if adrift. Perhaps they need help. Captain, I've just seen a ship which looks to be adrift. They may require our help. Elian takes out his telescope, leans on the rail, and observes the ship. Then he shouts an order. Hard to starboard! You immediately change course and begin approaching the steamer. As the steamer gets bigger and bigger, you have a strange premonition. Suddenly the steamer turns on its engines and the bow turns to face you. Elian pulls out his telescope again and looks at the steamer. Ugh. Hard turn! The ship is full of armed men, pirates! The Serenity will be unable to sustain a high-speed collision with such a large steamship. It is getting closer by the minute, and if they catch you, your small cargo ship will be easy prey. There are not enough weapons on board to defend yourself against such enemies. Despite everyone working frantically, the pirates are still closing in. There is a sudden whistle and the crack of splintering wood. They have started firing. Captain, we won't survive a direct attack. We have to get into the fog bank. It's our only chance. The captain nods and looks at the pirates getting closer. You can tell he is not keen on the idea, but that he recognizes that it could be your only chance of surviving. The ship changes direction abruptly. The change of direction confuses the steamship, gives you a chance to put a small distance between yourself and it. You're heading straight into a large bank of fog and looking around. You see Medina mumbling something and crossing himself repeatedly. Neither do the other men look Neither do the other men look happy about the decision, but since the steamship has corrected course and is once again in pursuit, no one protests. You turn back to look at the men on the steamship. You borrow an eyeglass to get a better look at them, but what you see freezes your blood. The men you see all have their forearms tattooed with eye symbols. Could it be absurd coincidence? Or have they been on your tail all this time? The pirates, or rather the cultists, are preparing to attack. While some continue shooting, others are preparing rope lines to board any minute now. However, the first whiffs of fog are already enveloping the Serenity. You find some wooden boards and put together some kind of protection from the men who will soon be boarding the ship. Then you realize that it is pointless and your shelter is ridiculous. You cannot stop some of them, but the cult will stop at nothing to get to you. You're increasingly panicked as you think about the situation. In the open sea, there is nowhere to run, no way of escaping the cult. You can hear shouts and the sounds of grappling hooks being thrown. Every muscle in your body is tense, ready for action, when you suddenly notice wisps of fog floating around the bridge. You stand up and look over the railing. The ship has disappeared, replaced by thick fog. Even the far end of the bridge of the Serenity is getting difficult to see. The Serenity is now drifting undisturbed in eerily silent fog. There's no trace of the steamship. The sound of its engine and the shouts of its crews have fallen silent. Your crewmates too are now silent and tense, and not for fear of the steamship. The surrounding atmosphere is surreal and disquieting. There is silence full of anticipation. Everyone seems convinced that whatever is about to happen, it won't be pleasant. Estamos entrando en las fos. I don't know how to say all of this. Okay, something about monster though. This looks familiar to me. You do not understand Medina's words, but the terror in his face is perfectly intelligible. It is almost as if time itself has frozen. The fog has become even thicker, and now it is impossible to see more than 6 feet ahead in any direction. Sound, too, has been muffled. You know the captain is shouting orders from close by, but they seem distant, as if coming from another world. Everyone on deck for a head count. I need to know how many we have lost. A drop of water lands on your forehead, and then you see another between your feet on the deck of the bridge. It starts raining. The crew is assembled on deck. Somebody stumbles and swears, likely knocking into someone else. Oh, dos míos. You're standing immobile, as if petrified on the bridge. You don't know which direction to go, and the rain is getting heavier. Okay, hold on. I hate I need all of this, the shininess to go away, please. We're back to 36 points. Everything but fighting. Should I move? I feel like I shouldn't move in the fog. The sea begins to stir. Suddenly, the ship is shaken, as if by a large wave or collision with the reef or the pirate ship. You're certain that it is not the pirate ship, and it cannot be a reef. You're too far from the coast. It is a wave, and as any other hits the side of the ship, you see Medina tossed by its force into a railing in front of you. Okay, I mean, this could be either or. I want to use observation because mainly it's just like my agility always failed me, except for the one time that it hasn't. You look around as best you can in this fog and you see a rope a little distance away. You scramble over to get it and throw it to Medina. He catches hold of it and you pull him across the bridge. Another wave bursts over the side of the ship and hits Medina, but he is able to hold on. If it hadn't been for you, he would have gone over the railing and into the sea. In these conditions, that would have meant certain death. There are unnatural sounds in the fog, in addition to the screams of sailors. There's something weird going on, and you start thinking, feeling that this is no ordinary storm. Quick, everyone to their stations. We must regain control of the ship. Now the captain emerges from the fog, yelling and waving his arms. He is trying to encourage the crew to action, to help him deal with the situation. Another larger wave hits the deck, knocking Elian down and dragging him away. As soon as the waves recedes, you go over to see what has happened to him. You find him some distance away, covered with blood and eyes popping. At first you do not understand, but then you see that a wave has impaled him on a loading hook. You see its point protruding from his sternum, and you realize he has mere seconds to live. The water remaining on the bridge turns red with his blood. Madre de Dios. Medina, white-faced and terrified, is next to you, also staring at your dead captain. You hear him retch and you turn away so as to not see him throwing up. The ship shudders again and you hear a queer noise. Next time you turn around, Medina is gone, disappeared into the fog. The screaming around you has lessened, but the ship rocks even more violently. You start moving in the fog, looking for other crew members. But now there is only silence, and the ship appears empty, as if abandoned. Another jolt, and there is a shriek of tearing as you are thrown overboard. You manage to resurface despite the ferocity of the waves. If you don't act quickly, you will die. How many points do I have? 42, so I really can't do anything. But observation! Search for anything which could save you. You're thrashing your arms, keeping your head out of the water to look around. You can see a large shape in the water just ahead of you. With great effort, you manage to get close to it. It is a portion of the bridge. With the last of your strength, you pull yourself out of the water. You're desperately clinging to this piece of wood tossed about in the waves of a storm. You have no idea how long you have been holding on to this fragment of serenity, but after a while, the storm calms and the fog begins to clear. You are weak from hunger and dehydration. Your grip on the wood begins to relax, and only then do you notice the pain in your hands. It is your final thought before exhaustion carries you into sleep. The place to call home. When you open your eyes, you're already coughing violently. You can feel cold, hard sand below you. When your vision comes into focus, you immediately see a face looking down at you. A young, dark-skinned woman is watching you with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. She has long black hair, and her face seems to balance sweetness and strength. How many points do I have? Just 48. With some effort, you manage to sit up and look around. There is no trace of your ship or your crew. Captain Elian, Medina, and all the others, gone. Probably dead. The woman is still watching you with intense curiosity, perhaps even a hint of suspicion. You're about to smile when her expression transforms again, and in a single skillful movement, she twirls around a spear, pointing its sharp tip at your throat. Right. I'm not even going to try. She speaks French. Having studied French at university, you understand her fairly well, but there is a word in her question that you do not understand. A word that doesn't even sound like French. You answer, trying to pronounce the words to the best of your ability. I don't understand what you asked. With another swift rotation of the spear, she hits you with a shaft. I'll decide if I need my weapon. Who are you? I'm British. I was on a cargo ship, which was sunk by a storm. The woman is perplexed. She looks like she's trying to understand if you are lying. There are no storms here. I passed out and found myself at the mercy of the waves. I do not know how long. Look at me. The woman continues scrutinizing you. Although she does not seem entirely convinced, she slowly lowers her spear. She gives us a thwack. I'm assuming that didn't injure us, or are you gonna not... Just maybe it's a light tap. She then helps you stand. You're unsteady on your feet, but you are thankful that you can even stay upright. Recent events have taken their toll. You are hungry and your throat is still burning. She beckons you to follow her, and then she walks off toward the jungle, which begins immediately behind the beach. She is guiding you through the dense vegetation of the jungle, holding your hand with a grip so tight that you doubt that you would be able to break free even if you were not in your current debilitated state. After a few hundred meters, the jungle gives way to a clearing, and in it, a small village. As you approach, the villagers immediately stop their activities and turn to stare at you and exchange surprised comments among themselves. The woman is still holding your hand, dragging you through the village. She speaks again, but not in French. You cannot understand a single word she is saying, and you still feel very confused. Finally, she stops, turns to you, and goes back to speaking in French. My name is Ayata. This is my village. Many of the other villagers start crowding around, and you begin to feel somewhat apprehensive. It's just a random island, okay? The adrenaline produced by waking in such strange circumstances is suddenly overpowered by your fatigue, and you feel your knees giving way. Ayata props you up to stop you from falling. You wonder if you will faint, realizing that your hunger and thirst are reaching critical levels. You're sitting on the floor of a hut, and Ayata is bringing you food. There are various strange tropical fruits and wooden bowls filled with food that you do not recognize. You waste no time asking what they are, though, and begin eating and drinking with gusto. Ayata is sitting next to you, still looking at you inquisitively. She seems cheerful, as if the mere sight of you amuses her. Then her expression changes, and suddenly she becomes serious. What's the matter is with them? This village is not free. Since they came, we have no freedom. We do whatever they want us to do, and every month they come here to take one of us away. No one has ever come back. Oh my god, all the cultists here? Who are they? Foreigners. They have weapons, and they do things. Strange things. All the villagers are scared of them. Scared that they will put a curse on us, or worse. So they can do whatever they want to us, and no one protests. You're intrigued. It certainly is a strange story, and you have many questions. But just then the young boy, about 12 years old, enters the hut and comes close. Ayata smiles. Jake, this is the village chief's sons, Farah Tuahueva, but everyone calls him Fugo. You shake hands with Fugo and discover that he too speaks French. So you're the chief's son. You are an important person then. My father is important. I am only a boy, for now. Compliment. I have to be clever. Sorry, I keep forgetting to read the dialogue option that I choose. I have to be clever if I am going to follow my father's footsteps. You and Ayata laugh. You are very impressed by this boy. I have no doubt that you will. You must be clever yourself then. You burst out laughing again. Ayata smiles too, but her face has darkened again. Ayata stands up and looks at you, ending the conversation. Follow me. Ayata silently walks off toward the edge of the village. You follow her and notice that Fugo is walking behind you. Ayata turns and gives him a look, silently giving her consent for him to follow too. You both continue following her until you are at least 100 yards outside the village. Ayata sits and you and Fugo follow suit. My people. Our people are terrified and superstitious. They are completely at the mercy of these foreigners. They believe them to be something like sorcerers, but I think they are only men. I followed them, watched them. I didn't see what they do with the people that they kidnap, but I saw them performing strange rituals. What kind of rituals? I'm not sure. They meet at a cave in the middle of the forest, wearing a sort of skirt and masks. They all have the same strange tattoo on their arms. It looks like an eye. I never dared to get too close, so I don't know what they actually do during the rites, but I did see that they had brought with them the men which they kidnapped from the village. You're stunned, speechless. It is the cult. Here too, but how is it possible? You attempt to conceal your reaction, but Ayata watches you closely. She pauses for a moment and Fugo looks at her. You can see where Ayata is going with all this. She wants to rise up against the cult, and finding no support from her people of the village, she sees you as a possible ally. You want me to help you? Ayata silently nods her head. Fugo does the same. They must be stopped, but our people are too afraid. I need to know what they are doing with the people from the village that they have taken. Then either fight or escape. Then Ayata tells you about a small island nearby where the villagers could hide if they go away. I mean, of course we're going to agree. Because I guess that's our purpose in life, to stop this cult. Ayata smiles, a smile that makes you feel that in another situation and another time, she would have thrown her arms around you. Fugo, though, jumps to his feet and begins to shake about in a sort of dance, accompanied by low-pitched yelps, which you assume to be a celebratory tradition of their tribe. You go back to the village, crossing the short stretch of jungle in silence. Okay. God, all these... Character sheet, 82, 60. So you need like 120 for if I want like to get 2 experience points. The eye on the island. You spend the entire day with Ayata and Fugo. Fugo has taken it upon himself to acquaint you with the fishing traditions of the village. He takes you to meet with a group of fishermen who have just returned from sea. Fugo proudly teaches you the local names for the fishing equipment, as well as all the fish and other animals that fill the nets which are thrown from their boats, which are small dugout pirogues? The women of the village, the women of the village take the catch and prepare it for the meal. Help. Let's try. Agility. Try to help with fishing. I've succeeded. Oh my god. The nets the men are using are quite different from any that you have seen, and you haven't done much fishing before anyway. Nonetheless, you soon get the knack of throwing the nets and pulling them in without losing the fish they contain. Returning to shore, you give them a hand unloading and moving the catch. Seeing you helping out, Ayata smiles. A large fire is lit and all the women are busy cleaning the fish and crustaceans caught by the men when you notice a certain tension in the air. There are noises coming from the jungle. Ayata, wide-eyed, alerts you and Fugo. You must hide. Armed strangers with pale yet tanned skin and European features enter the village and corral its inhabitants together with angry and threatening commands. They start examining the villagers. From behind the hut where Ayata has taken you to hide, you're able to see the whole scene. You assume that they have come to kidnap someone, as recounted by Ayata. You raise yourself up a little to get a better view of what is happening, but you accidentally knock over a fishing spear that has been left leaning against the hut, making a noise. Who's that? Is that someone there? He speaks in French. Another man approaches the hut where you are hiding. Ayata is frozen on the spot, but then Fugo rises to his feet and walks calmly into the clearing. You are shocked and about to say something, but Ayata gestures for you to stay silent. What do we have here? A little boy. Did you think you could hide it from us? The cultist smacks Fugo's face, but the young boy hits him immediately back. Unfortunately, his strike has little effect on the man, and after a second blow, Fugo is left reeling and bloody on the ground. The men in the village are immobilized, terrified. Gentlemen, I'd say we already have what we came for. The man makes signals to the other cultists and they grab Fugo's arm and start dragging him away easily despite his resistance. Ayata jerks forward and is about to shout, but this time it is your turn to silence her by putting your hand over her mouth. For only a second she struggles, then realizes that you are right. You feel a cold tear fall on the hand covering her mouth. The cultists leave the village, taking Fugo with them. You're still holding Ayata, even though she stopped struggling long ago. You know full well that you could not have done anything. In fact, you would probably have made the situation worse if you had reacted just now. Despite this awareness, you cannot help but feel like a coward. When the cultists have gone, you come out from your hiding place. We will get him back. How? Trust us? You don't know them, what they are capable of. Yata is tearful and angry. You asked me for help and I'm ready, but we need to think of a plan. You're wrong, I know them. All too well, in fact. Let's reveal. What do you mean? I've come across this cult before. The ship I was traveling on was sunk due to them. Okay, so it's like either way, it's both dialogue options. You asked me for help and I'm ready, but we need to think of a plan. Have you got any ideas then? We need allies. There has to be someone willing to fight back. I don't know. Maybe it is possible. Try to think of something. You try to come up with a plan of action, but quickly realize that you do not have enough information. Where are they? I have watched them, followed them. Their camp is on the opposite side of the island, and there's a cave there where they do their rituals. You have a starting point at least. You will need to see it for yourself to get a better idea of the situation so that you can make a plan of attack. You will also need to find out if there is anyone else willing to help you, an Ayata, or if you are alone. Now you just have to make a start. Okay, I'm going to the map, interestingly enough. So Fugo has been chosen. Oh, there we go. We have our 120 points that I wanted. And if we want to do, well, if we want to do all four, then I need 240? I think it's... I mean, if we need to do all four, we'll see. Map. There must be someone willing to help you convince the villagers to follow. You may seem useless. Cult camp. Cult cave. Okay, let's go with the villagers first. The sun was already high in the sky when you finally leave your bed and walk out of the hut where you had been sleeping. The village is a hive of activity. Many of the fishermen's dugouts are already at sea. Others are intent on finishing their careful preparations before heading out. The women are busy with various activities. Some tend to crops on the edge of the village, while others are looking after the children. It seems like any other perfectly ordinary day. As if Fugo's kidnapping, or those from before, had never happened at all. Yata comes up, bringing you some fruit for breakfast. Have you had any ideas? We organize a raid on the cult's camp. Yata notes your hesitation. But you don't think that it is possible. You explain to her that this is not the case, but that you would have much better chance of success if it were not just two of you. Tell me about the villagers. They are strong, they're determined. When they decide to do something, they stop at nothing. However, unfortunately, as I have already told you, they are very superstitious. They won't even consider attacking people who they believe are capable of magic. Tell me about the cult's defenses. They have weapons, terrible weapons that can strike from a great distance, and with more force than arrows. That is all I know. We have to make an attempt. What attempt? You notice Ayata's tone of voice when speaking about the villagers. You decide that maybe some of them could be convinced to help you. When you tell her this and that it is your best hope, she nods in agreement. There are perhaps 3 of the men that we could convince. Amana is the chief. He is very close to his son. I would hope so. With her eyes, she indicates his hut. He has not left the hut since his boy was kidnapped. Tahitao is strong and powerful, not easily scared. Manuari is very agile and headstrong. I think he suppresses his anger for them. Okay, obviously the chief, right? You go up to Amana's hut, knock, and enter. You find the chief sitting in silence on a mat in the center of his hut, his thoughts seemingly miles away. You're silent for a moment, considering your words, but he speaks before you. You must forgive my manners, but mourning fathers can forget the most basic courtesies towards both guests and their own companions. Speedcraft? Every advantage I can press. Oh, you need help with scenes and mention Fugo. I can understand your pain, Amana, but you are strong and wise man, and you should not be mourning yet. I know the cult, and they have no magical powers. However, I also know the danger that your boy Fugo faces, and I have no intention of leaving him in their hands. I'm going to rescue him. You pause for a few moments, and then turn to leave the hut. You have only taken a couple of steps when you hear Amana's voice. You will not go alone. Tell me your plan, and I will come with you. Okay, so I'm assuming we're going to like each of these guys. Tahitao. Ayata shows you which hut is Tahitao's. He has not yet left the hut to go fishing. Recently, however, Tahitao has not been fishing much at all because he has been looking after his brother, Aneta. His brother is bedridden because of a fishing accident. As soon as you enter the hut, you are reprimanded by Tahitao. What are you doing? Can't you see there's a sick person here? Okay, medicine. Ingratiate yourself with Tahitao by treating Anata. When you approach Anata, his protective brother starts to protest, but Ayata stops him and calms him down. Examining the abrasion, you can also see it is not very serious, but also that it is not being cleansed properly at all. You patiently explain that you will have to treat the wound, and that, although it will be painful, it will then heal more quickly. Tahitao is watching you treating his brother, and he seems impressed. You clean and dress the wound with great care. He may have a light fever over the next few hours, but in a day or two he will be fine. You look over to see Tahitao smiling happily. While you were treating his brother, Ayata told him about your plan. You helped Aneta. I'm with you. Okay. Out of curiosity, 56 points. So I need 4 more? You follow Ayata to a dugout, and you paddle together to Manuri's usual fishing spot. You reach him quickly and glide up right next to his canoe. At first he seems to be ignoring your presence. Then he barks at you. You're frightening the fish. Find your own spot. 12 points. He does not seem too happy to see you. Observation. Happily. Evaluate him as a potential ally. You watch him fishing, wondering whether he will help you on this rescue mission. Something about his concentration and bearing give you the impression that he is indeed a brave man, but also deeply melancholic. You detect even a hint of guilt in his unblinking eyes. We are going to rescue Fugo and all those who have been taken by the masked men. All of them. The man raises his head and fixes you with his large, bright eyes. That is a brave plan. I will help. When you return to your hut after having approached and spoken to the 3 men suggested by Atta, the sun is falling fast towards the horizon, over the great expanse of the ocean. I was afraid that no one would come with us, Jake. There is hope, however. Fear has not completely taken over this village. Despite the great risk you face, you are reassured by the fact that you have allies from the village. There will be 5 of you involved in the rescue attempt. Nonetheless, you will have to plan the attack so as not to be seen. Surprise will clearly be an important element of your raid. Okay. Just get rid of all these, okay? Oh, those the different achievements. And we have 32 points. So we need 75 for any of the observation medicine in speechcraft and 60 for agility. Which I will need agility, I feel. if we're going to an action sequences. The cult camp is the best place to start your investigation. Know your enemy before you start thinking about how to knock him down. Okay, what's the time? Okay, just a few more minutes, I guess. You're walking around the huts, watching the villagers in their activities. You are a stranger amongst these people, but at the same time you feel no negativity, discomfort, or hostility from them. Despite not being one of them, they do not seem to be scared of you. Rather, they treat you as an honored guest. I will need to have a clearer picture of the layout of the cult's camp. You're explained to Ayata that in order to rescue Fugo and maybe the other villagers who were captured before your arrival, you will need more information about the enemy camp. Tonight. When twilight arrives, you see Ayata heading away from the village, giving you the briefest of meaningful glances, telling you to follow. Again, you walk for what seems like an eternity, but eventually she motions for you to slow the pace. You understand that you are near. You're on a small rocky outcrop hidden by trees. At the base of the rocks, you can see the camp. It seems to be mostly tents, although there are some huts made from wood and corrugated iron. They have to have been built only recently. There they are. You scan the camp with close attention, but so far you can see no sign of the cult. It looks just like a normal military outpost. You wonder if you have not been in too much of a hurry to connect them to the London cult. Okay, observation. You see various men sitting around the fire in the center of the camp, eating a meal. Others are moving around the camp. Even from a distance, you can tell that most of them are white Europeans, as you already saw in the village. It must be hot near the fire, and many of them are bare-chested. By the dim light from the fire, you can see a dark shape on their wrists, but you don't need to get any closer to know that it is the cult's eye tattoo. When they have finished eating, instead of extinguishing the fire, some of the men bring more wood and start to build up the fire, increasing its diameter in intensity. After a few minutes, two men come out of one of the huts carrying a dead body. As they approach the pyre, you are able to get a better look at the body. It is one of the villagers. The body is covered in pock marks, and despite the fact that you cannot be sure from this distance, you suspect that they are the familiar marks of the disease. They throw the corpse onto the fire. Ayata turns her head away, her hands closed in fists, shaking with horror and rage. Ayata struggles to contain her pain and anger. You can see straight through her seemingly calm exterior. For now, you decide it is better not to say anything, and you turn back into the forest in silence. Was that useful for your plan? You nod. Now that you know exactly where the prisoners are kept, you can start formulating a plan to rescue them. Okay, now we're going to the cave. Rays of sunlight filter down through the jungle vegetation, warming your skin. You have been walking with Ayata for quite some time, when eventually she turns to you and gestures for you to be silent and move more slowly. You're approaching the cave where the cult conducts its rituals. The thick jungle opens onto a small beach. They walk up here in the line. You approach the entrance to the cave carefully, making sure that there is no one around or inside. Then you light a torch and go inside. I think they come here for this. As you're moving deeper into the cave, Ayata holds the torch nearer the cave walls, illuminating a strange and ugly pictograms. These drawings were here long before they came to this island. They have been here since ancient times. The symbols on the walls are heavily stylized, bizarre hybrid of rock paintings and Egyptian hieroglyphics. You make out what seems to be people worshipping and others who seem to be suffering. All around these figures are unspeakable and terrible creatures, dark horrors with bizarre shapes that they seem to change as you look at them. In various points you recognize the now familiar eye symbol. You reach the end of the cave, which opens onto a large space with a natural rock dome. The drawings all lead to the far end where you see a much larger picture. It looks like an altar surrounded by men, wearing what you recognize as stylized versions of the cult's masks and kilts. In the center, there is something which emerges from what looks like a well. It is a mass of black, but you manage to distinguish something, perhaps an eye, in the center of the mass, and there are protrusions like black tentacles reaching up into the sky towards what looks like the representation of a comet. Then you notice another detail. Caught up in the tentacles, there is a human figure screaming, his face horribly contorted in pain. In addition to the pictographs, there are inscriptions written in a strange and incomprehensible alphabet, of which it is hard to understand what exactly constitutes a letter or word. No one really understands that language. Okay, hold on. Again, just getting rid of all the shininess. How many points do I have? 50 experience points. Still got some ways to go. What do you think it means? Let's not leave. What do you think it means? I've thought about it, and I think it's a prophecy of some kind, whereas the inscription could be either a story or a prayer, but the drawing seems to depict a ritual which is supposed to awaken something terrible. Somehow there is a comet involved too. It's a sacrifice, you think, but you don't say anything. The images show a sacrifice in conjunction with the passing of a comet. Your mysterious friend warned you about an approaching comet in his last message. Returning to the tropical forest, you are pensive and silent. What you saw in the cave left you with a deep sense of anxiety that you can't seem to shake off. You have seen similar things in your nightmares. Ayata must have noticed the sense of oppression that lingers around you. Do you think this cave could figure in your plan? You remember now that this was the original reason why you came to the cave, and you consider it now carefully. On reflection, you decide that the cave is too risky a location for any sort of ambush or attack. Okay. I was surprised. I was expecting that we'd be able to question and then have a look around instead of leaving right away. But it was kind of an either-or situation. Okay. But with that, I'm going to end this set here, and we will, hopefully this will be the last one, will be on Saturday, October 29th here. But yeah, we'll finish off the story, and then hopefully I have time for the side stories on Saturday. I don't know how long the side stories are, though, so that's one of the things to take into consideration. How many side stories and how long they are. Because otherwise then I'll have to continue this on October 30th and maybe even 31st. But either way, thank you for liking if you liked. Thank you for commenting if you commented. Thank you for subscribing if you subscribed. Thank you for favoriting if you favorited. Thank you for simply clicking on this video. Until next time, guys. See ya!